Welcome back to another Plasticon repair video, because you know I'm doing these. Anyhow, if you guys actually checked out the previous one, I went through good old Jolt here. Jolt Full. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I get these two guys' names mixed up. It's very easy to do. How about the orange one? Anyhow, I did a repair video to him to actually fix his waist in. It's actually a lot better than the previous rubber band that was in there that I actually had to fix. I'm still having to sort out the electronics issue with him. It's not like it's going to be an easy thing to do, but you know, that's just how it is with when it comes to older toys. Most people buy these mainly so that way they can transform them and pose them. They don't really play with the electronic gimmick that much. Anyhow, let's dive into this guy. I have actually already done a whole thing here with the spread of tools. So here you go. Here are the tools you will need for this job. The tools needed for this job will include O-rings I've ordered from the internet, rubbing alcohol and Q-tips, needle nose, pliers, and snips, precision screwdrivers with flat heads and also Phillips heads, and a nice cold Coca-Cola. Okay, now we're back. Anyhow, let's get on with this. Oh yes, Coca-Cola is very important. This is the most important thing of the whole entire repair process, is having a Coca-Cola. Hey, I like Coke, sorry. Anyway, let's get on to this. Basically, with him, I had already previously expressed that I had a working one, and he works just fine. Works very well. Kind of hard to see with all the lighting in here. But in order to get into that battery compartment, we're going to take one of our little precision screwdrivers here and pop this thing here open. And what's crazy about this guy in particular, unlike his little counterpart there, I'm going to take the screw right out. The whole thing comes out. And this is kind of funny because I actually do have some corrosion going on in this one. Although it's working, it has corrosion. Doesn't that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and clean this one here up as well. And I already expressed that when you're doing this, don't have like a whole lot of pressure on the pieces here themselves when you're using a screwdriver to kind of scrape that off. And then sometimes you can just pull it off. You can take a, like I said, a Q-tip to kind of clean it off there a little bit. See, it's all nice and pretty now. Shiny. Well, sometimes they turn out really well and sometimes they don't. That's the biggest thing though, like I'm going to express this again if you guys did not watch the previous one. If you pull one of these off and this is all rusted, and this is so brittle that it's going to break or fall apart, I highly suggest just going out there and trying to source another part to replace it, because unless you're one of those kind of guys that's very into redoing a rivet, because that's what that is a rivet that goes through there, and be able to completely replace this little piece of metal, which I know some of you guys out there are very crafty. If you're good at that, do that. If you can't afford the, the actual replacement part. Anyway, I'm going to pop these two batteries out, which obviously just kind of fall right out sometimes, which is fine, because, it's better if they do. And I do have some corrosion that's going on right here. This seems to be a common occurrence on that particular contact, but you can see I've got some kind of corrosion going on there. So I'm going to get this Q-tip and get down in there and kind of rub on it a little bit. Kind of really trying to dig it in there to get all that gunk out. But it cleaned it up pretty good just by doing that. The other thing, like I said, look at the batteries themselves. Sometimes the batteries have a little bit of gunk on them. Sometimes you can just rub it off with your fingers. I do suggest you go wash your hands after you get done doing this kind of thing, so you don't get residual battery acid all over everything. Because it's not really, it's not so much a battery acid as it is just a corrosion buildup. It isn't going to hurt you. It's just not edible. But anyway, I'm going to break out the good old alcohol here that I mentioned. This is a simple thing. Like I said, you just want to dip the just the tip of this in your alcohol solution. And like I said, I roll the I normally roll the Q-tip around as I'm doing this to get all the major stuff off, because like I said, you never want to soak, or never ever want to absolutely soak electronics. And I'm just going to take this in here and spin it around a little bit, try to get some of that corrosion off, clean it up a little bit. I'm going to take the other end here and dry it off real well. And I might just do that once more because it's cleaning up pretty nicely. And there you go. You can tell, like, it's not absolutely perfect, which none of these are, but you can absolutely tell that it's a lot cleaner than it was before, because it was very green just a second ago. And then test the toy. You're just going to pop the batteries back in. That's your positive. This is your negative. If you guys happen to have the instruction booklet, it's a good way of keeping track of that. It's also written on the door, though. So, you know, see positive, negative little things right there. But most people are very confused on which side's the positive side and which side's the negative side for your little watch batteries. And yeah, it can be kind of a pain, and I agree. But there we are. Press the button. Oh no, look, it's not even want to work. It's like I broke it or something. Isn't that weird how that was working? Now it's not. That's strange. Anyway, I'll mess with that part later. That's just a guide just to show you how to clean out the compartment. You just basically take the things in and out a couple times. It more than likely, I could just have like a battery in here. It's just faulty too, because I mean those batteries are pretty old. I kind of suggest going out and buying brand new ones myself. Anyway, let's get into the major devil advocate, and that is this waste issue. If you guys don't know this, the wastes on all the laser rods is literally a G.I. Joe waste. They had used these little things here called O-rings, and they can look like this when you get done removing them. This one here's one of the previous one I did, and it's kind of cracked. It's very stretched. Could cause a lot of issues, especially if you're trying to stand them up. If you're trying to get them to stand up, this guy here, he stood up okay, but I mean, he tends to stand a lot easier now than he did before, especially with that replacement piece of O-ring. Now he's still top heavy. That's something you can't do anything about, but at least the rubber band will actually hold better. The first thing you're going to want to do here, though, is you're going to want to transform him, and then flip the this portion here up just a little bit on him. You can do that if you want. I suggest kind of just like a little bit. And here, one other thing I did fail to talk about again was the wires for these guys. Every time you tend to get these, you'll pull this here out, and it will want to literally it'll do what it's doing right there. It conforms to the car itself. In order to get this to really straighten out very well, I kind of, like I said, suggested before, I do suggest you take like a just a hair dryer and just get the wires warm enough so that way they'll bend more. The thing is especially if you have like say your collection room is not in the most, I don't know, climate controlled places, maybe it's a little cold in there and such, I do suggest you be very careful with the wires that are on these guys because they can crack over time, much like Shockwave. A lot of you guys out there know G1 Shockwave has a hose attached to him that will possibly crack over time. Well, that's mainly due to the changes in temperature and moisture within an area. All right, anyway, enough of the babbling about that. Let's get in and talk about what we're going to do here. I'm going to use my trusty larger handled precision screwdriver. This is literally the same size as most precision screwdrivers. And I'm going to be removing this screw, and this one. Now I do suggest when you do this that you keep track of what screw goes where. I call these the shoulder screws, and I'll call this the crotch screw or the waist screw, either one. I'm going to come in here and unscrew this real quick. And the thing is with these are kind of trapped behind this this hinge piece here. So just be very mindful when you're doing this. So that way you don't mess up the hinges to the hood. Otherwise you won't be able to transform it very well. I'm going to kind of dig in there a little bit just to get it to come out. And I'm not talking about a dig, I'm talking about like pressure. That's one thing I'm talking about there. You want to apply a consistent pressure. See, that screw literally came out. That's good. Sometimes you'll have to kind of bump the toy or something like that to get the piece to come out. I know a lot of you guys out there are very, very like not manhandling toys. Well, I took everything apart, everything from mini bots to the biggest thing I literally have disassembled was a Fortress Maximus. Took about 4 hours to disassemble, about another 4 to put back together. That thing's an undertaking. But like I said, when you're doing this, you want to apply a consistent pressure to the screw, and then just let the screwdriver do the work. You don't want to push too hard because you can strip, not the screws. I'm keeping these two separate. That's the waist screw, that's the two for the, which I'm pretty sure they're all the same size screw. I'm just not absolutely sure if they are or not. But the biggest thing here is you got to make sure that when you're taking these guys apart that you're not putting too much pressure on the screws themselves, because the part it's screwing into is literally plastic. It will snap, it will break, it could strip over time. There are tips and tricks in order to fix that, but I do suggest you just put a constant pressure and be careful with what you're doing there. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull him directly apart. Now the O-ring is located back down in here. I can actually see cracking already starting on this one here, but it's way down in there. It's kind of hard to see, but there you go, right there. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull him directly apart. I'm going to lay him flat like this as I'm doing this, so that way I don't lose parts. So I'm going to pull this completely off. We'll set that aside. The headpiece here is supposed to slide up and down. That's the whole like seat portion. I will pull that directly out because that's just going to fall. Now I do suggest you can leave the arms attached. You can take them off if you want, but I don't suggest actually taking them off. As you can see here, this is where the O-ring is located on him. I can see so much cracking going on in this, it's insane. But anyway, that is one of the biggest problems with this guy, is he literally has a very loose race. But I'm going to take this off just like this. It just slides right off. And then as you can see, we've got a whole like very loose waist piece here that just rocks back and forth. This will literally come off if you just turn a couple times here. Just something I'm noticing here on this one is you just turn it here, push this down, and it should pop right out. And something I'm noticing is different on this one. This does not have a rubber grommet on the inside, much like his counterpart did. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing this. Now, if this had previously been took apart, I don't know if it had. There might have been a rubber grommet in there that was just not put back in like it should have. As you can see, the rubber band's actually on a hook. We just unhook it, take it off. You can clearly tell that the memory of the rubber band has really took its toll on this one. I'll set this aside. It's just, I mean, you can tell. It's bad. It's a very bad rubber band. I mean, I could do this, and it's literally going right back to the same shape. Now, you guys are probably wondering about the replacements. These replacements, like I said, I had ordered these off the internet. I got them off of eBay quite a while back, but I ordered like a set, and it was like 10 of them. This was like $3, something like that. It was really cheap. It was not expensive at all. Very easy, cheap fix. I mean, it's such a cheap fix. I really suggest you guys go out there and do this, especially if you need to replace the rubber bands, because it's just, this stuff even happens to G.I. Joes out there. But as you can see, it's got a hook right there, and you're going to put the hook, or hook this right in. You don't have to put a lot of pressure, just literally it will just roll and pop right in, because these are really, really nice, so they're not crazy. Now you're going to have to push it kind of an oval shape. That way we can force it back through the hole there. And then the key here is patience. You're going to have to turn this a little bit, pull and push at the same time. And if you notice something here, whenever I actually put pressure on those legs, they're not going to move much. Well, that's what's going to happen when you end up putting this back over the part. And see, it's all on there, all nice and pretty like. And take this portion here and, you know, drop this back in, and as you're doing this, you're going to loop it over that loop piece right there. You can already tell he's holding a lot better. I hadn't even put anything on him. I had put like nothing at all other than just loop him on there. Now, if you guys are really, really crazy, like I am sometimes, if you're like, there's so much dust in this, how do I get the dust off? Well, yeah, take a Q-tip and just dust it. Like, it's really, this right here would be a very hard piece here to really clean. If you guys really want to get in there and actually clean your toys, this is a good way of doing it. I'm going to try to clean all this nastiness off of him before I reassemble him, because he does have some, I call this plastic dust, because you can tell from like just over time it's scraped, and that just happens, it does its thing. But after that, I'm going to push this all back together and hold it like this, and then I'm going to drop the seat section back in, just like so. And then I'm going to take the whole other part here and lay it on top. And then I'm going to try to put the waist piece back where it needs to be. It's not wanting to do that. Okay, I know why. I did get kind of ahead of myself here. You're going to want to take this, I'm going to take this piece here back off real quick. But you're going to want to take the rubber band and kind of push. There's two little portions right here in the back right here that's kind of a groove. You'll want to kind of shove those pieces of the rubber band back into those. That way it holds it in position, it puts more tension on it, and it's going to make it a lot easier to put together. Plus it also keeps the rubber band from protruding the sides here as you're trying to put it together. That's just something I should have done before. But I'll put the head portion back in, and then reassemble this part here. Now this part here is a bit tricky because you've got the whole ball joint piece here. You just have to be very patient when you're trying to put these guys back together sometimes. There's a lot of moving parts. If you guys have ever took apart, there we go. Now, the biggest thing here is when you're doing this, make sure your seam that's here is completely flush all the way around. So that way, you know, it's not gonna oil a lot. And then we're just gonna put our screws back in the holes. Like I said, when you're putting this back in, just let the screw guide its way in. Because if you don't, you can over thread it. Now when you start feeling a little bit of tension, the good thing about the screwdriver part here for gripping, I'm putting pressure with the palm of my hand, but I'm also turning it by the rubber part. I know it's got enough tension because the rubber part of the screwdriver is turning and the screwdriver itself has stopped. It's a little tip for you guys out there that want to take apart toys or anything like that. I mean, this is a very, very good guide for that kind of thing as well. I'm going to line it back up. Let the screw do its own work. Sometimes you can tell it's not quite in. Just try to give it a little bit of a nudge there. You can normally tell when something's about where it needs to be, because if you're obviously putting it together and the screw is protruding where it shouldn't be protruding, it obviously needs a little more pressure put on it to make it actually go in the hole. And then we're going to put the waist screw on. Now this should tighten him up a little bit. It's not going to be 100% perfect. Like I said, I believe probably the person that owned this before me had tried doing this before or something. But I don't believe they did, because that's a lot stiffer than what he was before. If you notice, his legs don't droop quite as bad. They are a little loose. If you want to, you can twist the waist. But that normally, sometimes will fix it and sometimes it won't. So. Okay. There's something here I've noticed on mine. You can see down in there the rubber band's actually still protruding, and I can't quite push this back all the way. It's probably the best thing here to do. Put this up. Push the seats up, because obviously, you know, that's not correct. Then push this rubber band back. I'm actually doing this with my fingers. And try to set it where it needs to be set, like flush. So you can actually get your fingers in there to that rubber band. Then you should be able to push this down just fine, so it goes right over that hole. Because there's actually a groove that's cut out within the seats. They're way down in there. You're gonna have a bit of a gap like that, but that's fine, because whenever you do, you know, transforming, this will actually push back all the way. But that's not too bad. That's actually a pretty decent fix, considering, you know, these guys tend to over time not want to stand up very well anyway. It seems that this his head tends to get caught. If you guys have ever owned this guy, you guys will know that the forehead tends to catch a lot, because you have to push the seats up in order to get his head to pop up. Sometimes it'll catch, sometimes you just gotta wiggle the whole assembly together. There we go. Let's transform it real quick. Boom, boom, boom. And that's actually just as bad as the original one. And I think I know what the problem is. The problem is the guy that had it before me probably did not have the rubber grommet. And he forgot to put the rubber grommet piece in, and that is why he is so wiggly. So, we're going to address that issue real quick. By disassembling it again. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the old pieces that I have over here, one of the older O-rings. Let's see if I can't makeshift a way to tighten that, because that is not right at all. Yeah, this whole piece here is supposed to actually have like a piece of rubber that pushes against everything. So I'm going to take this old piece. This is the older grommet. And I'm going to put that in here. And I'm going to try to make a I don't think that'll work. Let's try this. Let's actually try a new one. I have plenty of new ones. Okay. What I'm going to try to do here is see if I can get this newer rubber piece . It's quite too big. If you notice, it's way too big for that. So go back to the old one. Yeah, the older one tends to fit in the hole a lot better. Because if you notice, it's actually shrunk some, so it actually fits down in there. Now, when I'm talking about rubber grommet is, if you go back and look at the other video, I'll put it up here somewhere. You can see that it actually has a an actual grommet in there that holds everything together. That this one's actually missing, and I wasn't aware this thing was missing that. So that's why this is a quick makeshift fix job type of thing right here. And you know what? This isn't bad. I think it's actually tightened it up quite a bit. Notice that when I put that waist piece back in. And this isn't going to overstrain anything, because you got to think it's rubber. Rubber's meant to flex and bend and all that happy stuff. So if anything, this is going to add a little bit more tension to his waist to keep him from actually falling. Yeah, I'm noticing already a major difference. Major difference. And that right there must be the one reason why this guy is so wobbly. I always wondered why he never stood up correct. Because some people, when they, I mean, the guy probably owned it before. I mean, you never know. Even the rubber piece itself might have degraded and fallen out, because all that is a little rubber grommet type of thing that just shoves down in there. Now, I'm not absolutely sure what shape that would be, considering it's kind of like a cup, but there we go. Oh yeah, look at that. Much better. See? Yeah, there we go. And push his little rubber band part here back up where it needs to be, so that way I can transform them correctly. Yep, that fixed that. That's about the only gripe I really have about this guy here, is his head tends to get caught very easily. Okay. There we go. Alright. There. Fine. stand up. Much better. Yeah, he actually does stand up better. That fixed that issue pretty easily. That's if you actually have a rubber grommet that's usable. I mean, he's standing up just fine now. I mean, you guys saw him earlier. He was a floppy mess. He would not stand up at all. But that did fix him. The biggest thing is, though, the thing is tension that's put on that rubber band that's on the inside. Now, if you don't happen to have these, or a way of getting hold of these, there are hardware stores out there that actually carry these little rubber grommets. My suggestion to you, if you guys do need rubber little grommets like that and you don't know what size they are, take the toy apart and take that piece with you, and then you'll be able to find out if you have to go to a hardware store to get it. If not, I just order it online because it's easier. But I feel like I broke my toy worse than I did. Actually, I didn't. I know the whole laser light thing is just, I don't know why it's not working now. That's silly. Anyway, this has been Plascon. This has been yet another little quick fix your toy video, because you know these are very interesting. A lot of people like to see these. But anyhow, that's all I got for now for this one. So I'll catch you guys later, because I have plenty more coming. I'll catch you around. Bye.